What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? So today I'm covering out breakout performers for who's currently on our roster before the draft. I'm using the term breakout loosely. I really just kind of mean players that should make a significant jump and or make a significant impact on the team and whatever success that we have. And this is going to be the offensive version. I will do one for defense as well. And again, this will be for our current roster pre-draft, of course, since we don't know who we're going to pick up yet. Also, let me know if you guys would be interested in, I guess, either like a voicemail, call-in kind of situation. I'm still a little bit a ways away from doing live streaming, but call in so you guys can have questions and or a Discord channel for the same thing, essentially. But with that said, let's go ahead and dive into it. So, of course, at our premier position, my player is going to be Zach Wilson. So I've talked about it a few other points, but the main things I'm going to be looking for, and we've already seen instances of this, is leadership qualities being a plus, right? So the biggest thing is going to be, and maybe you can say this is a factor of more established quarterbacks, but generally, in some fashion, they're hosting, let's call it skill sessions with the rest of their wide receiver core, tight ends, running backs, etc., in order to get in some extra work, some chemistry, team building, yada, yada. We've seen that, but kind of in reverse. So Zach Wilson's taking the route of doing an off-season tour, if you will, and he's been going from state to state, meeting up with all of his weapons: Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Braxton Berrios, Denzel Mims, Michael Carter. CJ Uzoma was supposed to be, I think, I want to say he was supposed to be in the session that was with Corey Davis. So I'm not sure. That never really got confirmed. Also, kind of up in the air about Tyler Conklin, but again, they're new, so they got their own situation going on with having to move and get the family established in a new area. But he's out there making things happen, so I love to see it. We also a big thing that I'm looking for, and it sounds, I don't know, maybe it's straightforward, right? But basically, improve short area accuracy. We have one of the lowest percentages, lowest completion percentages for 0 to 10 yard throws in the NFL. And I think a lot of that was Zach Wilson just being unsettled. We've seen a lot of hero ball in the beginning of, the beginning stages of the NFL season where, and he mentioned it himself, he just really wanted to kind of have that highlight factor maybe to the offense and really get the crowd involved and get behind the team, etc. And if all you're aiming for is deep ball routes the entire time, NFL defenses can key in on that and pick those off for days. So I do want to see the improved short area accuracy, or at least that continued. Along with the interceptions, we actually did see that improve quite a bit in the last 5 weeks as well. And then kind of to tie everything together, a little less schoolyard. So when plays break down, I don't have any issue with that, but there was definitely a lot of instances where after about 2 seconds, and he might not even have pressure, you can see him kind of starting to wheel and deal, and he's running back 20 yards, moving up 5, kind of going lateral with the movements, and then he tries to make something spectacular happen. So I have no issue with that if pressure does get out to him and he needs to make something happen. But I don't want to see him necessarily break a play down before it fails, just to try to make something, like that spectacular play, right? But he is going to be my player that I think that will stand out for those reasons. I do think we see him have a lot more control over the playbook. I do see him settling down, and we see his natural arm talent on display. And with that said, it'll be a lot less schoolyard. There'll still be plenty of plays where he's rolling out and something looks amazing, but it's within the spectrum of what how that play was supposed to be performed. Moving into the running back position, again, it's a no-brainer here. Michael Carter. For me, really, it's only two key areas with him. I loved everything that he brought. He almost hit 1,000 all-purpose scrimmage yards. And, there's not enough great things to say. His contact balance is outstanding. I can't tell you how many tackles I've seen him either bounce off of or break. There's two things, though. I do want to see him I can't even say a specific facet of his game that I want to see improve, but he didn't necessarily have a significant amount of touches in any one game. And again, we're running a running back by committee, but they've also said that the coaching staff will give the ball to the hot hand, and that was obviously Michael Carter on our staff. Keeping in mind some of the struggles with like Ty Johnson and all the drops and things that we've seen too. Tevin Coleman being out early. Austin Walter didn't really get a significant amount of playing time. So everything led to one, kind of his health taken away from that. But when he did play, I would like to see him get more touches so we can see a higher level impact for the offense. And kind of going along with that is going to be improved conditioning. At least from what I recall and kind of what I've seen on tape. There's, let's say off the top of my head, maybe 3 or 4 touchdowns that could have gone the distance, and he got burnt out. I don't think it's a matter of him not having necessarily the speed, but it definitely seemed like he just kind of got gassed and he couldn't finish the play completely out. So his stat line could look much better. That's at least 80 yards left out there and then an additional 3 or 4 touchdowns. So I would definitely love to see him be able to finish some of those 20 plus yard plays as well. At the fullback position, because I am going to include them, is basically between Nick Baldwin and Trayvon Wesco. I'm going to go with Nick Baldwin because it seems like that's kind of the consensus fan favorite in terms of winning the starting position. He was able to go in there and do some serviceable work. But with the West Coast offense and kind of what we've seen be on display with the 49ers and other various positions, keep in mind, we haven't had really a solid fullback for any schematic since like Tony Richardson. And, that's probably a name that's going to, fall off the radar for quite a few people. But Tony Richardson was a great fullback for us that was able to do a little bit of everything. But I want to see the same thing. Can we get an all-around impact performance from Nick Baldwin? The biggest play off the top of my head is really the 20-yard reception that he was able to get. So that's really going to be what I'm looking for him. I do think he should be able to beat out Trayvon Wesco with it being his natural position, but we'll see. Denzel Mims is going to actually be my pick. So I know Elijah Moore, maybe Corey Davis, even Braxton Berrios would have been the fan favorite, but I am definitely on the Denzel Mims hype train, if you will. I think from everything I've heard and seen about what he's doing to get himself in shape, ready, no excuses whatsoever for the offense, I'm betting on that. And there's really just 2 key areas, which I don't want to undersell it, but is really the main things he would need to do just to get on the field so that he can make an impact. Because regardless of the poor performances last season, his rookie season not necessarily being, one that gets talked about in league history, he has shown the ability to be a big play threat. Again, my favorite highlight reels are definitely him carrying 3 or 4 people on his way to like 8, 10, 12 extra yards. And we're talking about a Julio Jones type athlete here. So we should be able to make things happen. Again, the scheme doesn't necessarily suit him per se, but let's see if he put in enough work to maybe make himself fit. But his 2 key areas: improved playbook understanding. Jets X Factor put out actually a very articulate article about how complex the West Coast scheme actually is. And this is just in general speaking, which I've talked about before in terms of the depth, what things they need to look for, running the proper routes. A lot of it is a certain degree of kind of like tic-tac-toe, if you will, or rock, paper, scissors, I should say, where if they give you one look, you got to kind of make the right move for it. So just understanding the playbook, though, and what route he necessarily should be running will go a long way. And then along with that, his actual route running or chemistry with Zach Wilson in and of itself. The only real, 40-yard big play that he had last year was on a broken down play where he was just able to make something happen. It might have been 20 yards, but either way, you guys get the point. Naturally, he wasn't a great route runner coming out of college, and the complexity of the scheme doesn't help things. If you have a big question mark in the middle of trying to run a slant, that slant's not going to be crisp. So I would definitely love to see that. But again, I'm not saying breakout in terms of being the absolute best at his position. I would say a very respectable year for him that would give the coaching staff confidence to allow him to play out his 4th year is maybe a 600-yard, 5 touchdown performance. That might be asking a lot as somebody that's maybe a 4, maybe a 5, but it depends on if he can work his way up the depth chart or not. Tyler Conklin is actually going to be my player at the tight end position. I think CJ Uzoma is getting a lot of the attention as maybe the de facto number one starter, but they're pretty much irreplaceable. It depends on which strength you love more. Tyler Conklin's a lot better of a blocker in both situations for pass and run blocking. He's won a lot of one-on-one matchups there. Not to say Uzoma's a slouch, but I think Tyler Conklin has a little bit of the edge, whereas Uzoma offers a little bit more of the yards after catch ability, but I think Tyler Conklin's actually the better route runner. So seeing what he was able to do with the Vikings in the one breakout season, I would love to see him still be consistent on his third down success. I want to say in the video that I did before when we signed him, he had a crazy stat like 25% of his catches went for a first down completion or moving the chains on third down, something like that. So I would definitely love to still see that be a stat for him his debut season with us. And then just continuing his pass block wins. We've seen him go and get matched up against some pretty solid edge rushers during his time with the Vikings, and he's been able to, at worst, kind of get a stalemate and at certain times actually win and create quite a few creases for Dalvin Cook and company down there. So I would love to see it. I think he'll be the tight end that actually maybe has the better stat line on paper, but that's to be seen. And then for the offensive line position, for me, is personally going to be Conor Mcgovern. I know the tackle situations was getting a lot of the headline news, but the center position is where things starting in on the offensive line for me. If you get railroaded at the center position or have somebody that just can't really snap well, things of that situation, it's going to cause very poor performances week after week, practice after practice, etc. So I know from a stat standpoint, I think Conor Mcgovern came in number 9 on the PFF rankings for the centers. He did kind of score high in the penalty department, and I think he had 3 or 4 sacks on the season, which didn't look great. I don't remember exactly how many pass block snaps that was, but I know he played like 930 something snaps as a whole on the season. So either way, it doesn't look like the greatest rate there from a pressure performance or a pressure percentage, as well as what actually got converted into sacks. And it's only going to be that much harder on him this season, with how the AFC has been built up. So he's coming off his career best performance, though. Literally, he hasn't performed better, again, statistically on paper, than what he just did in 2021. So I'm hoping that carries over if we don't get improvements, because, again, if he ends up getting hurt, or if he just goes back to his 2020 play, any improvements made by any of the other players on this list, excuse me, is definitely going to get wiped out. So those would be my 6 players that I think may potentially break out for us. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are, especially at wide receiver. I think you guys would probably pick like an Elijah Moore or something like that more so. But again, very interested in your thoughts, and let me know as well if you guys would love to see like a voicemail inbox for questions or a Discord channel, something of that sort. But appreciate all the support. Peace.